Kitty, we're back.
We're back.
How was Japan?
Incredible. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
I will try not to relate absolutely everything to it.
But I know you got many a Monster Hunter merch.
Mhm. Yes. And many a cat figurine and many a Pokemon. So very happy with my haul.
Excellent.
Yes.
Now, that means it's been basically 4 weeks since we recorded an episode.
Wow. This is the longest we've ever been
It has been.
without it. Yeah.
I've forgotten literally everything prior to this moment right here in the books. It's all gone completely. I'm kidding, of
Well.
course.
No, it's right back into it. That's what's lovely about it.
Yeah. Now, that
Mhm.
said, during our absence away from recording, I
Mhm.
believe it was chapter 33 that aired on the channel,
Mhm.
and I managed to catch an overlapping Sanderson that I'm so
Wax.
excited. Yes, I
Yeah.
had to sit on this so long. So I believe it's in chapter 33 when, oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. I really have forgotten
Ellen.
everything. No, not Ellen, the Chondra. Dogasaur.
Oh my goodness, how could you forget Dorkus?
Right?
Poor boy.
Poor boy. Dogasaur says something to the effect of Chondra are of preservation and humans are of ruin. Yeah, you remember
Mhm.
that?
Yes, I remember that.
Think, Kitty, where else have we heard ruin?
Ruin?
Yeah.
In terms of okay, look, I don't know about the word ruin. When I was thinking of creation and destruction, I was thinking of women and men in Way of Kings.
That is definitely a topic that comes up, but that is not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to
I'm
is
sorry, yeah. I tried to guess it, I'm sorry.
Dalinar's vision.
Mhm.
The Radiant comes barreling down to Earth, and she's like, they are of ruin, after all.
Oh. Oh, okay, well,
Oh,
makes sense then. Okay, that's awesome.
right? That does make me
Mm.
have to reevaluate the whole R. Chondra Cosmere Travelers.
I don't go that far. I just think of it as a, "Ooh, that rhymes," kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Mm. I'm not
Interesting.
ready to be like, "No, the Khandra are the Void Bringers," kind of thing.
No, but they're of preservation. How can a
Yeah.
preservation thing be are the
Yeah,
no.
okay, yeah. This okay, well, yeah,
Anyway,
something about red things. So anyway,
that
cool
like
parallel, well done.
yeah, love it.
Mhm.
The other noteworthy thing about this chapter is I read it before you left. I did not read Way of Kings until you had gotten back from your trip, but I
Mhm.
thought we would get one more recording session in for
Mhm.
Well of Ascension, and then we didn't. I've been sitting on this chapter for like 4 weeks thinking about it.
Yeah, feeling as if, like, listen, you've read ahead because 'cause you're sitting and waiting. So it's
Little
like,
bit.
oh yeah, and also it means you haven't been able to read ahead for 4 weeks. As
Yes,
in, like, you haven't progressed for 4 weeks, so the story has been on pause, a and we already move at a slow pace, so I'm so sorry.
all good. And then add on top of that that next week is going to be a blind, so we don't get to
So we
read this week because we have to wait until
oh,
next.
but you know what? It's fine.
We're back.
It's fine.
It's great.
We'll be fine. We're back. Yeah, we're still doing it, okay? The story's still there, it's not going anywhere, and we're gonna enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah. Now, that said, we've got a long chapter with a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
We get Ellen taking some very mad risks.
What the hell, Ellen? Testosterone's a hell of a drug, man. Jesus.
Ha
There's a reason men die early. I'm just
right?
saying.
How much of it reeks of desperation, do you think?
Yeah, he's like, you know what? Also, he's just screw it. You know what? I've tried everything. I'm so done. That I feel it's desperation and frustration. Like, oh, just
Yeah,
whatever.
because
Yeah.
we'll get to it when we get to the Lacal conversation, but
Hmm.
he's not talking to Justes like he's unstable. Or maybe he is. It's such we'll get to it when we get to it, but
Oh
he
yeah,
puts his foot
it's
in
so
his
rich,
mouth.
so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. It makes me go, whoa, 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 what? Because we haven't had anything about Justice, really. We haven't known what's
Yeah.
going on or what he's been going through, what happened with them at the end of the last book. We don't really know.
Yeah.
So this is the first hint we have. There's a lot that's going on in this in one interaction, which actually lands up being too not too short for my liking, as in like, oh no, the book should have been written differently. It's more like, oh my gosh, that was quick
Yeah.
because it was just fast and furious and chaotic and yeah.
Yeah. But then we've got some good ham development. We've got another Kolos
Mm,
mystery. Oh, when we get to that line.
yes.
And we get
Ooh,
some Ellen still being very kingly.
yes. I'm loving Ellen. Sorry. I'm feeling Ellen. Woo! Let's go. Ah.
Oh gosh. Okay, let's get into it, shall we?
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read through, and today we will be covering chapter
Chapter
42.
42. I missed that. Some of you may know of my fabled memory. It is true. I need not a ferochemist's metal mind to memorize a sheet of words in an instant. Humble brag.
Yeah, jeez, flex. Okay.
Eidetic memory.
Okay. Yeah, he's got eidetic memory. Thanks. That's really great. Imagine being able to remember. No, I'm okay with my horrible memory. I think it's fun. I already find it hard to keep a lot of things in my mind. So, wow, good for him. So, is this going to come up at some point? Why do we need this information? He's got a good memory. He's got not just good a good memory. He's got an eidetic memory. We need to know this about Quan.
Yeah, it's got to be important in some way, obviously. I no
Mm,
longer think that this is just Sanderson wasting our time like I did for a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah. We're like, okay, okay. Well. So yeah, it's not some. Just try. We have to try and remember it because we don't know why. We don't know why we got to remember it, but it's here. It's like here is a crumb. This crumb is important.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm getting major narcissist vibes from this guy. He has spent so long
Uh just
lamenting
yeah.
things about what happened in a way that makes me think that he's just really self-indulgent,
He
just
is.
very
Yes.
narcissistic, I think.
Maybe that's what we're getting from this. It's not exactly the eidetic memory fact. It's just the way that he's talking about himself. Like as you literally the first thing you said was humble brag. Like okay, maybe that's not it's not the purpose, but he's talking about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
And and
okay,
and
we're
so
done with
much
you.
of this
Well, let's
up to
do
this
it.
point has been about him, not about Alendi,
Yes.
not about
Not about
Rashek, but him.
not about the world. He's just carried on about how he feels. It's like again, if this was see the thing is, if this was in a journal or something, I'm okay with that. Actually, you can ramble as much as you want about yourself in your journal because it's you and you're having a conversation with yourself and you're trying to process your thoughts. But remember, this guy's putting this on the steel thing.
Hmm.
So this is not ramblings. This is not my daily thought dump. This is supposed to be purposeful writing. So yeah, Kwan. We're over you, I think.
Yeah,
Mm.
tell us what happened already.
Just shut up and tell us. I actually have a movie I want to misrecommend just for you for that. It's called Wolves. But yeah.
Wolves.
Okay, anyway. Yeah, just keep it in mind.
I'll check it out.
Mhm.
Good, Ellen said, using a charcoal stick to circle another section on the city map before him. What about here? Demio scratched his chin. Grainfield? That's a nobleman's neighborhood, my lord. It used to be. Grainfield was filled with cousin houses to the Ventures. When my father pulled out of the city, so did most of them. Then we'll probably find the homes filled with Scar transients, I'd guess. Elend nodded. Move them out. Excuse me, my lord? Demio said. The two stood in the entryway by Keep Venture's coach portico. Soldiers moved in a bustle through the spacious room. Many of them didn't wear uniforms. They weren't on official city business. Elend was no longer king, but they had still come at his request. That said something, at least.
It does say something at least. I don't think it means at least, actually. That's an understatement. That said a lot.
Yeah.
That's it. Not something. It means a lot, Ellen. This really is your journey has really it's not just superficial. It's not just in your head. It is out there. People do believe in him. That they'd come. That these people have come. He is a leader. He's leading them, title or not.
Yes. And
Mhm.
it's gonna. I keep saying, like, these things that he's doing are going to pay off for him in the end. I
Mhm.
don't know that he's going to be king at the end of all of this, though. I wonder, would it
I
defeat
don't
the.
need him to
I
be.
don't need him to be either. And what I was just about to say was like, it would almost defeat the purpose of the journey at that point for him to be rewarded in that way, if that makes sense. It
Mm.
might
But I
undermine
mean,
it.
well, what would be if he lives, right? Because we
Mhm.
both decided he's probably going to die.
Yes.
Like in this chapter itself, I was like, "Is this the moment?" Because I did go. He could be just pulling this on us, Branderson. But so if he doesn't die, okay,
Hmm.
what would be the satisfying end? I mean, he does deserve to be king. Who else needs to be king? Why wouldn't he be king?
Well,
He doesn't have to be emperor, you know.
I think an episode or two back, I put forward the theory that Penrod would be king, but Elend would somehow convince him and the rest to choose dangerous freedom over safe tyranny. And because this whole book is all about the masses picking dangerous freedom, I think it would be very appropriate for Penrod to remain king. What that means for Elend, other than to just have him on the council, I wonder, maybe because we still haven't left for the Well of Ascension. So I'm wondering if it's going to end with Ellen going. I wonder if Vin is going to go with Zane to the Well of Ascension, and then Ellen's going to be like, I have to go find her. And then maybe he just won't be in the city at all.
That will be an interesting dilemma for him to go through because Tindwell has already raised that theme or that question of when it comes down to the kingdom versus Vin, who do you commit to? Who are you going? Who? There will be a time where you have to sacrifice one or the other.
Yeah.
Hmm. So that is look. When you said he goes after her, I don't think so, but I think he'd want to.
Yeah. Well, then, if you don't think he's going to be king, do you think he'll just end up at. I mean, and if he lives, do you think he'll just be on the assembly and that's that?
Yeah, I guess that works. He's like a high-ranking assemblyman. He's a chairman, like a speaker of the house kind of guy.
Mhm.
So he is still pretty high-ranking, but or he's a king of a certain dominance. He's not an emperor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't see
I
him
don't.
becoming.
I do want him to be a leader.
Yeah. But that said, I don't see him becoming the leader of the Church of the Survivor.
No, I don't need him to be, and I don't think he would be. No.
We need to move the Ska out of those homes. Noblemen's houses are mostly stone mansions with a lot of small rooms. They're extremely hard to heat, requiring a separate hearth or a stove for every room. The Ska tenements are depressing, but they have massive hearths and open rooms. Demio nodded slowly. The Lord Ruler couldn't have his workers freezing. Those tenements are the best way to efficiently look after a large population of people with limited resources. I understand, my lord, Demio said. Yeah, would you
Makes sense.
yeah, would you give up a nice mansion in the dead of winter?
Yeah, if to be warm, if I was cold enough, yeah, I'd say because I'm dying and I'm cold and starving. So yeah, it's like, oh, look at this great mansion that does absolutely nothing for me. Even as shelter, it's subpar. So it looks nice. Is all you're getting. So it's like fine, you can sit in your ball gown and freeze to death and be happy with that. It's actually quite. It's a nice allegory. Not allegory. It's symbolic. Like we have this remnant of the Lord Ruler's rule, right? That, but it's useful in this context. We're not using the Lord Ruler's force and prejudice and all of that, but we are using his infrastructure and things like that. So it's like combining the old with the new, taking the good parts of the previous regime and good parts if there were any, but like the useful parts and keeping them. You don't have to destroy absolutely everything. Use what you can. That's a pragmatic approach, and I'm enjoying that from Elland.
Sure.
And I guess we have more of that discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I want to make a quick statement of appreciation for the world building of it. This is a great
Mm.
detail. It makes sense. Of course, the nobleman would be rich enough to be able to heat each room, whereas
Mhm.
the workers who lived in groups would have a more centralized source for heating.
Yeah,
I mean, that's well done. It makes
it makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Don't force them, Demio. My personal guard, even augmented with army volunteers, has no official authority in the city. If a family wants to stay in their pilfered aristocratic house, let them. Just make certain that they know there's an alternative to freezing. Well, no official authority? Isn't he on the assembly?
Yeah, he's still on the assembly, isn't he? But the thing is, authority, yeah. And he has no, his personal guard, yeah, that's fine. It's still a personal guard. It does have authority, I suppose, doesn't have authority over other gods,
Hmm.
but either way, he's not using that authority anyway. He's just using the actual logistics of that god to go and deliver this message, to clear them out essentially. But this is what I mean by the difference. He's not doing the Lord Ruler's thing of like literally just kicking them out and beating them and pushing them into the tenements. He's saying, listen, hey, you're gonna freeze here, by the way. Come with us. And then, it is up to, then people can choose freedom or safety, or freezing or freedom. Like, I don't know, I was trying to make a joke there, but yeah, I like that he's giving them the choice.
Yeah.
If they, like I said, if they want to sit there and be like, look how nice my house is, but they freeze, that's up to them. He provided a solution.
Yes. And they'll see that as
Mm.
Elland helping them.
Not forcing them. I like that, the idea. Don't force them, Demir.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good principle to push forward.
He's still working for the city.
Hmm.
Demio nodded, then moved over to pass on the commands. Elland turned as a messenger arrived. The man had to weave his way through an organized jumble of soldiers receiving orders and making plans. Elland nodded to the newcomer. You're on the demolition scout group, correct? The man nodded as he bowed. He wasn't in uniform. He was a soldier, not one of Ellen's guards. He was a younger man with a square jaw, balding head, and honest smile. Demolition's scout group?
What are we scouting for? Okay, I don't. What are we demolishing? Are we I don't know.
I
Oh,
was curious about that. I mean,
we need.
we
I
find
guess we
out.
need firewood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another little thing that we're supposed to also notice here is not Ellen's guards. He's a soldier that joined on because he's this is outside of Ellen's even authority, jurisdiction, whatever. But this is somebody who's helping out, right? Is that what I'm?
Yes.
Am I understanding that correctly? Yeah, he was a young.
Volunteer.
Yeah, he's a volunteer because he wasn't in uniform. He was a soldier, not one of England's guards.
Yep.
So he's a soldier, but he's working for England voluntarily.
Yes. And even though I read this chapter 4 weeks ago, Kitty, because you went on vacation, I did
I'm
not
sorry,
have
how
the
dare
wherewithal to listen back to previous recordings and see
I?
what voice I did for him. So we'll see what I come up with today.
Okay.
Don't I know you? I helped you a year ago, my lord. I led you into the Lord Ruler's palace to help rescue Lady Vin. Gorodal.
Okay, that's a long listen, that's a long time ago, Dorkus. That's a long that's last book. Okay, you don't need to have gone that far back. I don't blame you for that.
Thank you. I led you into the Lord Ruler's palace to help rescue Lady Vin. Gorodal, Ellen said, remembering. You used to be in the Lord Ruler's personal guard. I joined your army after that day. Seemed like the thing to do. Ellen smiled. Not my army anymore, Gorodal, but I do appreciate you coming to help us today. What's your report? You were right, my lord. The Ska have already robbed the empty homes of furniture, but not many thought of the walls. A good half of the abandoned mansions have wooden walls on the inside, and a lot of the tenements were made of wood. Most of them have wooden roofs. So I've been playing a bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 recently.
Mhm.
Fun game. And in it, you see castles, presumably as they would have looked of the day. And I went
Mhm.
and watched a YouTube video that showed the locations then and the locations,
Mhm.
or rather, the locations in the game, and then the
Mhm.
locations now. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because obviously what's left is the stone foundations.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of wood and wooden room and wooden stairs and all kinds of things that seem to have been
Wooden
used.
like wooden flesh, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas the when you just have the rock left behind, it's kind of difficult to imagine. Ah, I love old things. I love castles. That's what I enjoyed in Japan. I need to show you those. Oh,
Yes, I want to
anyway.
see pictures. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is that there's probably a fairly decent amount of wood, and it's clever and
Mhm.
smart.
Yeah, it's not contrived or like, oh, that's convenient. And I like the little detail of, yeah, they took the don't worry, they took the furniture, but they didn't think of the walls. Like that's a lot to do
Hmm.
because it's paneling, it's yeah, and then also to take down whole tenements. So I would expect that yeah, there's a lot of tenements, so you can sacrifice those and then use the best ones in best condition for the people.
Yeah.
You're trying to again, you're just trying to find the best solution. You're gonna have to break a couple eggs if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and they do address the issue of what if Penrod finds out, which I think is good. It's
Mm,
good to pay lip service to that, so to speak.
yeah.
And they don't think it'll be an issue, but it will, I imagine, be difficult to conceal at a certain
Hmm.
point.
I think it is good, yeah. Like you said, lip service. We need that mentioned. It's okay. Whether it does turn into something or not, we like that they've considered that.
Yeah,
It's not lampshading. It's just it's realistic consideration. And then you go, I've made this consideration, and the what's the name the stakes are high enough for me to continue anyway. So.
yeah. Most of them have wooden roofs. Good, Ellen said. He surveyed the gathering mass of men. He hadn't told them his plans. He'd simply asked for volunteers to help with some manual labor. He hadn't expected hundreds of people to answer the call. Good. Yeah, you're starting to reap what you've been sowing, but in a good way.
Mhm.
That sounded so
Yeah.
ominous, the way I said
You're getting what you deserve, Ellen.
it. It looks like we are gathering quite a group, my lord, Demure said, rejoining Elend. Elend nodded, giving leave for Gorodel to withdraw. Well, I'll be able to try an even more ambitious project than I'd planned. My lord, are you certain you want to start tearing the city down around ourselves? We either lose buildings or we lose people, Demure. The buildings go. Good, authoritative
Good,
Elend,
good.
and it's a strong choice.
Yeah, he's not he's explaining his reasoning and he is sure. Thank you very much. The buildings go. Boom.
And if the king tries to stop us, then we obey. But I don't think Lord Penrod will object. Note he says Lord Penrod, not His Majesty or
I
King
didn't pick
Penrod.
that up. Ooh, that's true. I did not pick that up. But he's still calling. He didn't say Penrod. He said Lord Penrod. So that there's so many facets to that.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think there was a passive aggressive dig going on there. Just it
mm-mm.
was humorous to imagine.
No, I don't think it was passive aggressive, but it shows how he fits this man in his head. I mean, th- literally, the king tries to stop us, so we know he does think he knows who the king is, but it's just subconsciously this Lord Penrod will object.
Yeah.
I like that. I like, and it's in both of our versions that it's Lord Penrod. It would have been interesting. That would have been quite interesting if they differed between our what's the name publications.
Yeah. Then we obey. But I don't think Lord Penrod will object. He's too busy trying to get a bill through the assembly that hands the city over to my father. Besides, it's probably better for him to have these men here working than to have them sitting and worrying in the barracks.
That's like also another thing. Like, so it's not just lip service of okay, what's Penrod going to do with this? It's also what Penrod is doing.
Mm-hmm.
What he's busy doing is with his time now. It's like, nah, he's busy. He still has to work with the assembly. Cool, he's the king, but he still has to work with the assembly.
Yeah. And yeah, and Penrod can't just come in and unilaterally say, we're giving it to Straff,
Mm,
which is important. One would think at some point that wouldn't matter anymore if it
I
feels
thought
like
so.
it's going to go to Straff. Hard to see how it
I
won't,
thought,
so just might as well come in.
yeah, I thought the assembly was just going to fall apart. No,
Yeah.
but he has to use the assembly to to bring Straff in, and Straff will then destroy the assembly. It's so I don't know, politics.
I mean, I suppose the Ska would be
Mm,
unlikely to want to give it to Straff.
mm,
And I'm certain that the merchants don't want to give up any of their power, which is why they would still
mm,
want to go through the process of voting on it. But I thought that they were already
mm.
going to go for Straff anyway, based off of the Phelan
Yeah.
stuff. So
Mm,
interesting stuff to think about.
It's maybe it's practicality. It's
Yeah.
literally the practicality. It's not actually the politics of it. It's not that difficult. It's just that he's got to, I don't know, the bureaucracy of it.
Yeah. Demio fell silent. Elend did as well. Both knew how precarious their position was. Only a short time had passed since the assassination attempt, and the transfer of power and the city was in shock. Set was still holed up inside Keep Hasting, and his armies had moved into position to attack the city. Luthadel was like a man with a knife pressed very closely to his throat. Each breath cut the skin. I can't do much about that now, Elend thought. I have to make certain the people don't freeze these next few nights. He could feel the bitter cold, despite the daylight, his cloak, and the shelter. There were a lot of people in Luthadel, but if he could get enough men tearing down enough buildings, he might be able to do some good. Yeah, so this is more of Sanderson leading up to the Sanderlanche, I think. He's really tightening the strings, waiting for them to break.
And he's just yeah, and he's signaling to us, shit's going down. Like, listen, I've probably said that a few times in many episodes. It's gonna go down, Dorcas. It's gonna go down. Shit's going down.
Yep.
But he's just playing that note. He's saying, just remember, he's tightening that up.
Yeah.
And I am thanks. I'm petrified.
Yeah. My lord. Elend turned as a short man with a drooping mustache approached. Ah, Felt. You have news? The man was working on the poisoned food problem, specifically how the city was being breached. So we got Felt back. Yay.
Yay! The spy master felt right.
Yeah, remember the time I thought he
Mhm.
was going to report to Straff instead of Elend? Remember the time I thought he overheard the discussion on the roof with Kelsier and Vin?
No.
Gasp. I remember that
Mm.
discussion. You didn't believe me.
Uh.
And it ended up nothing came of my suppositions there. But that was a fun discussion as I remember.
Well, yeah, that was listen, that was a bit major thing that we did discuss about their conversations in the first book. It was like, stop talking about things
Where
so
you can be
openly.
heard, yeah. The scout nodded. I do indeed, my lord. We interrogated the refugees with a rioter and we came up dry. Then I started thinking. The refugees seemed too obvious. Strangers in the city? Of course they'd be the first ones we'd suspect. I figured, with how much has been going wrong with the wells and the food and the like, someone has to be sneaking in and out of the city. Elland nodded. They'd been watching Set's soldiers inside Keep Hasting very carefully, and none of them was responsible. Straff's Mistborn was still a possibility, but Vin had never believed that he was behind the poisoning. Elland hoped that the trail, if it could be found, would lead back to someone in his own palace, hopefully revealing who on his serving staff had been replaced by a Khandra. So, a couple of things there. One, it's the Mistborn, Vin's Mistborn friend, Straff's Mistborn, rather, who is in
Yeah.
control of the Khandra.
Mhm.
So I don't think Ellen's quite right on that matter.
Yeah.
But I am very curious. This mystery now. I don't think we've discussed it before. Who do you think is behind the
Mm-mm.
poisoning?
I mean, I'm just inclined to think it's Zane, because yeah, it isn't set. Or maybe it's Justice. I don't know.
I, I think Zane is
Some other
definitely an
faction.
option, but
Mhm.
I'm actually wondering if it's Phelan.
Just to like weaken things.
Make things
Yeah.
tougher for Ellen.
Yeah, and he for just to put pressure to ensure that there is even more pressure on the city. It could be anyone really.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, what struck me about this is Straff's Mistborn. It's like in Vin's head, it's Zane. Okay, she knows so much more about Zane. He's a person, and it just reveals to me or reminds me how little they've spoken about Zane
Mm-hmm.
and how little they're speaking, communicating with each other about very important things. Straff's Mistborn. It's like, wow, they are so far apart, Vin and Ellen, in terms of discussing these sort of things. So, yeesh.
Yeah. Well, Ellen asked. I interrogated the people who run pass walls, Felt continued. I don't think they're to blame. Pass walls? Felt nodded. Covert passages out of the city, tunnels or the like. Such things exist? Elland asked with surprise. Of course, my lord. Moving between cities was very difficult for Ska thieves during the Lord Ruler's reign. Everyone who entered Luthadel was subject to interview and interrogation, so ways to get into the city covertly were very prevalent. Most of those have shut down. The ones who used to lower people up and down by ropes over the walls. A few are still running, but I don't think they're letting the spies in. Once that first well was poisoned, the pass walls all got paranoid that you'd come after them. Since then, they've only been letting people out of the city. Ones who want to run from the besieged city and the like. That all makes
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, it all makes sense. It's endearing that we still have Ellen. Like, that's a thing because yeah, we do have this disconnected. Remember, Ellen's a nobleman. He doesn't know the underground.
Yeah. There's There's also an important note here to be made. I think it's more prevalent later with the granny stuff, but at
Hmm.
some point, Ellen thinks something to the effect of he didn't know how to feel about this criminal underworld in his city. But remember when Vin was walking through the city and she's like, man, even the thieves are doing better than they used to. Ellen is great.
So she knew how to feel about Ellen's rule.
Yeah,
And I just feel like the underworld is not something as much as Ellen is an idealist, I think he should get some sort of realism and understand that that underworld's always going to exist.
yeah,
You're just gonna have to figure out how to finesse it and not let it become like you're controlled by it. So
yeah.
good luck with that. But yeah, that's at least we have too many things going on right in front of us. We can't even think about that philosophical debate.
Sure, makes sense. Elland frowned. He wasn't certain what he thought of the fact that people were disobeying his orders that the gates be shut with no passage out. Next, I tried the river. We thought of that. The grates covering the water are all secure. Felt smiled. That they are. I sent some men down under the water to search about, and we found several locks down below, keeping the river grates in place. What? Someone pried the grates free, my lord, and locked them back into place so it wouldn't look suspicious. That way they could swim in and out at their leisure. Elend raised.
Wait a second.
What?
Just what's happening here? He's someone. pried the gates free, then locked them in order that it locked them again so it wouldn't look suspicious. But the locks were keeping the river grates in place. That's what made them look suspicious.
I mean, once
Do you
they
see what I'm saying?
yes, but like presumably no one was actively searching them. It wasn't until someone was
Mm,
specifically assigned to look at them that someone looked at them. So over a
mm,
passing glance, I'm sure it looked fine.
mm.
But I bet you've clued into something here that I'm just not bright
No, I
enough to
think
catch
it's
on
not
to.
really important. No,
That
but it's not very important anyway. It's just I'm not understanding the words.
so basically someone I guess like they didn't have locks or
Before, yeah.
yeah, and someone basically like broke the grates and then put them back into place to look like they weren't
Uh,
broken.
okay, that was the thing. Okay, that's what the lock thing is. Because it's like the locks made you notice that the grates were tampered with in the
Right.
first place. But the thing is they're not just like little padlocks on the side there. They're actually it's like binding them to try and because they were broken.
Right.
Yeah.
Ellen raised an eyebrow. You want us to replace the grates? No. No, just to replace those locks with new ones, then post men to watch. Next time those poisoners try to get into the city, I want them to find themselves trapped. Felt nodded.
Ooh,
What?
I've got an error in my book, sorry, but it's quite funny because it says next time those prisoners try and get into the city, I want them to find themselves trapped.
Do you think that's a Freudian prisoner? Do you think whoever's
Yeah,
poisoning
that's a
it
Freudian.
are legitimate prisoners of some kind?
Interesting.
Who's
No, I don't know.
prisoners?
Autocorrect. Oopsie poopsie.
Hmm. Hmm.
Who's
Like
prisoners?
prisoners of the
Those
city? No
prisoners.
one's been taken prisoner that we're aware of.
Mm. No, I think poisoners is the correct word. This is a genuine typo.
Oh. Yep, that makes
No, it's a
sense.
genuine typo.
Poison.
Yeah.
Next time those.
Poisoners and prisoners is yeah, similar.
Oh, I see, I see, I see, I see. Okay.
Mm.
Never mind. Felt nodded, retreating with a happy smile on his face. His talents as a spy hadn't been put to much good use lately, and he seemed to be enjoying the tasks Elend was giving him. Elend made a mental note to think about putting Felt to work on locating the Condra spy, assuming, of course, that Felt himself wasn't the spy. Do you think he's the spy?
Mm,
Not the Condra, but like
yeah.
a spy? Do you think Felt is
Of course
trustworthy?
he's I don't trust him. Like the smiling and he's just not trustworthy, but he's an I don't know who he
Hmm,
would be loyal to. So it's like unknown, known unknown. Cool.
cool. My lord, I think I might be able to offer a second opinion on how the poisonings are occurring. Oh?
Ha! Now this is a potential. Hey, this is a potential spy that's now talking to us. Although
Demio, you
we've
mean?
been yeah, he's been a candidate for spy man,
Yes, but
but we yeah,
I don't.
but we did think like, wait a second, he's what do you call it? Because of his religious underpinnings, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, at this point, I will be very, very shocked if Demio is some sort of spy or the Condra. I
Mm,
feel like he's been successfully taken off the list.
yeah.
Oh? Demio nodded, waving for a man to approach from the side of the room. He was younger, perhaps 18, and had the dirty face and clothing of a ska worker. This is Larn, a member of my congregation. The young man bowed to Ellen, his posture nervous. You may speak, Larn. Tell Lord Venture what you saw. Well, my lord, I tried to go to tell this to the king. The new king, I mean. Uh, he flushed, embarrassed. It's all right. Continue. Well, the men there turned me away, said the king didn't have time for me. So I came to Lord Demieux. I figured he might believe me. About what? Inquisitor, my lord. I saw one in the city. Ellen felt a chill. You're sure? Is Marsh back?
I was not thinking Marsh because I'm like, okay, Marsh, why aren't you contacting everybody? Why aren't you speaking to Sazed? Why aren't you so like if it, maybe there was this Inquisitor is something to do with the poisoning. So there's another one. I just don't remember when this guy says he saw him. So maybe it makes sense that he was seen, and we haven't. Marsh just hasn't spoken to Sazed or anyone yet.
Look, honestly, my
Yeah.
money's on Marsh. He's been MIA for a very long time, and him not reaching out to the gang, I think, is in character for Marsh. He's very much an
He's
outsider.
got.
He was very dry. I don't know if that's the right word, but dry with Sazed.
Mm,
He may feel
distant.
that distant, yeah, and he may feel like he'll make the rest uncomfortable. So I think it's Marsh.
And
My money is on
and he's
Marsh.
got his my money is that Marsh is yeah, okay. That this means Marsh is back. Okay. I'm in agreement with you. But I'm wondering if Marsh is following another Inquisitor here.
Ooh, maybe.
I don't know. It's just a theory because I'm just like, okay, and there's, I suppose it does. You don't need another Inquisitor to be here, but I'm just trying to think of the reasons Marsh is doing what Marsh is doing because that's a huge mystery that has not had anything added to it for a very long time. This is all we have.
Yeah. That said,
Imagine if, whoa, what if Marsh is poisoning the people?
well, it's funny because I was
Why?
just about to say, that said, if it is Marsh, I don't think he's the poisoner. But,
Yeah,
oof, why would
but we're
Marsh
just getting this
poison?
tidbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Why would Marsh marsh? So
How many marshes does a marsh?
marshmallow. We haven't marshmallow. How have we never done that? Okay. Anyway, distracted.
I saw one in the city. Ellen felt a chill. You're sure? The young man nodded. I've lived in Luthadel all my life, my lord. Watched executions a number of times. I'd recognize one of those monsters, sure I would. I saw him. Spikes through the eyes, tall and robed, slinking about at night near the center squares of the city. I promise you. Ellen shared a look with Demio. He's not the only one, my lord. Some other members of my congregation claim to have seen an inquisitor hanging around Craddock Shaw. I dismissed the first few, but Larn is trustworthy. If he said he saw something, he did. Eyes nearly as good as a tin eye, that one. Okay, so we've got Demio backing him up. I believe it. Like I said, like it's not even a
Hmm.
question in my mind. If there wasn't an Inquisitor here, unless someone were pretending to be an Inquisitor, this wouldn't be in the book.
How do you do that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, this must be Marsh because it's also like he's by Critic Shore, which is like there's okay, cool. They're thinking about it as oh, it's poison, the poisoning thing. But the fact that he's hanging around Critic Shore, that's making me go, okay, he's looking for the atium, he's doing something.
yeah,
And he has his own reasons. It's absolutely plausible to me. He would have his own reasons not to reach out to the crew.
correct.
But yeah, and Vin's been indisposed, so Vin wouldn't have seen him. So yeah.
Yeah. Elend nodded slowly and ordered a patrol from his personal guard to keep watch in the area indicated. After that, he turned his attention back to the wood gathering effort. He gave the orders, organizing the men into teams, sending some to begin working, others to gather recruits. Without fuel, many of the city's forges had shut down, and the workers were idle. They could use something to occupy their time. He saw energy in the men's eyes as they began to split up. Elend knew that determination, that firmness of step. It came from the satisfaction of doing something other than sitting around and waiting for fate, or kings, to act.
Sanderson really does like the joy of work. He's
I
got
was,
that going in Elantris.
that is literally what I was going to say. I get Elantris vibes from this
New
passage.
Elantris, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
He turned back to the map, making a few notations. From the corner of his eye, he saw Ham saunter in. So this is where they all went, Ham said. The sparring grounds are empty. Elend looked up, smiling. You're back to uniform then? Ham asked. Elend glanced down at his white outfit, designed to stand out, to set him apart from a city stained by ash. Yes. Too bad. Nobody should have to wear a uniform. Elend raised an eyebrow. In the face of undeniable winter, Ham had finally taken to wearing a shirt beneath his vest. He still wore no cloak or coat. Elend turned back to the map. The clothing suits me. It feels right. Anyway, that vest of yours is as much a uniform as this is. Oh, shots fired!
I love it. Yeah, I was so happy. I was like, yes, why not? Like, listen, you know what? Not a good time. We're busy, but you know what? Just that's a quick shot. Like, okay, if you're gonna come in here with this uniform talk, let's talk about yours. I think it's great.
Anyway, that vest of yours is as much a uniform as this is. No, it's not! Oh? Nothing screams thug like a man who goes about in the winter without a coat, Ham. You've used your clothing to change how people react to you, to let them know who you are and what you represent, which is essentially what a uniform does. Strong argument.
Yes, and also just showing Ellen's understanding of what a uniform is. It's not just a it's not just the decoration. It has social significance. It has a function.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting way of looking at it. What? You never argued about something like this with Breeze? Ham shook his head as he turned to look over the groups of men, listening to the men Elend had appointed to give orders. He's changed, Elend thought. Running this city, dealing with all of this, it's even changed him. The thug was more solemn now, more focused. Of course, he had even more stake in the city's safety than the rest of the crew. It was sometimes hard to remember that the free-spirited thug was a family man. Ham tended not to talk much about Mardra or his two children. Ellen suspected it was habit. Ham had spent much of his marriage living apart from his family in order to keep them safe. I love this. This is, we really haven't gotten much in-depth Ham growth. We've got some
Mhm.
and we get them in bits and spurts, but in this book so far, not quite as much as Breeze has gotten, or
Mm,
Demio, I think.
yeah. I think it's makes sense to have Elend have these thoughts about him. Elend is an empathetic person. Elend is also taking a measure of what's where everybody's at. So it's not just waffling. This is very good characterization.
And in terms of being friends, he's probably
Mm,
closest with Ham because
yeah.
philosophy buddies.
Mm.
This whole city is my family, Ellen thought, watching the soldiers leave to do their work. Some might have thought something as simple as gathering firewood to be a mundane task of little relevance in a city threatened by 3 armies, but Elend knew that the freezing Ska people would receive the fuel with as much appreciation as they would salvation from the armies. The truth was that Elend felt a little like his soldiers did. He felt a satisfaction, even a thrill from doing something, anything to help. Good.
Mhm.
Civic
Thrill.
responsibility.
Okay.
Thrill.
Civic response. Yes. Satisfaction. Thrill. Hmm. That makes me think of his actions later on.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bit thrilled. So yeah, he's maybe he's a bit jazzed. He's feeling good, so he's feeling himself. So maybe
Confident.
that's what leads to. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
no.
confident.
What if Set's attack comes? Ham said, still looking over the soldiers. A good portion of the army will be out scattered through the city. Even if we have 1,000 men in my teams, that's not much of a dent in our forces. Besides, Clubs thinks there will be plenty of time to gather them. We've got messengers set up. Elend looked back at his map. Anyway, I don't think Set's going to attack yet. He's pretty safe in that keep. We'll never take him. We'd have to pull too many men away from the city defenses, leaving ourselves exposed. The only thing he really has to worry about is my father. Elend trailed off. Yeah, I don't think Set's going to attack. Also, I think, I've said it in the past, I think Set is exactly where he wants to be because it'll be safest up there from the Kolos. Yeah?
Hmm. Yeah, he's just sitting, but he has maneuvered to look like he's going to. He still has to look like a threat. He mustn't look like he's completely cowed.
True.
So, but he, yeah, Straff's his big Straff, and his biggest threat, worry is the armies, which
Mm-hmm.
includes the Kolos.
Yeah. Elend trailed off. What? That's why Set is here, Elend said, blinking in surprise. Don't you see? He intentionally left himself without options. If Straff attacks, Set's armies will end up fighting alongside our own. He's locked in his fate with ours. Ham frowned. Seems like a pretty desperate move. Elend nodded, thinking back to his meeting with Set. Desperate. That's a good word. Set is desperate for some reason. One I haven't been able to figure out. Anyway, by putting himself in here, he sides with us against Straff, whether we want the alliance or not. But what if the Assembly gives the city to Straff? If our men join with him and attack Set? That's the gamble he took, Ellen said. Set never intended to be able to walk away from the confrontation here in Luthadel. He intends to take the city or be destroyed. He's waiting, hoping Straff will attack, worrying that we'll give in to him, but neither can happen as long as Straff is afraid of Vin. A three-way standoff, with the Kolos as a fourth element that nobody can predict. I gotta say,
Mhm.
I think that kind of makes Set seem like a badass.
Yeah.
Like,
He's taking big risks. He's like, "Fine, we'll do this or die.
yeah,
Let's go."
yeah,
And that, you know what, maybe it's also because of the way you played him that makes me also just like him.
maybe. I mean, I don't dislike him. I remember how
Mhm,
viscerally I disliked the reveal at first and having done
mm,
such a 180 on it, but this
mm,
last passage in particular really does make him seem badass, all or nothing kind of a
mm.
guy. I do wonder what it would be that he's so desperate of. Maybe he knows he left a patchwork group of allies in his wake on his way to Luthadel, such that maybe he feels if he fails, he won't have the strength to keep them in line. So maybe he
Mm.
left himself too thin, and he thinks he'll be overturned either here or back home, something like that.
Yeah, that really resonates. I really think that is the case. Maybe there's some sort of Atium thing, I don't know, but I
Mm,
think you're right. The desperation of like there is no security where he came from, so he took his chances out here.
yeah, and only the PR of a positive
Yeah.
campaign will keep his
Mhm.
kingdom stable.
Yeah. So he's really he's working the cards he's been dealt
Hmm.
quite well. I like him. He's not great. He's not a good guy, but
No,
I like him.
someone needed to tip the scales. Demio, are you ready to take over here? Captain Demio looked over, nodding. Ellen turned to Ham. I have a question for you, Ham. Ham raised an eyebrow. How insane are you feeling at the moment?
Music swells.
We'll cut that line for the
Uh,
trailer as well.
yeah.
Definitely a bit of Kelsier in him.
That was very cinematic, Kelsia, performative. Ooh. And beautiful big white space in between there for us to think about what could Ellen be doing? What could he be thinking about? Because Kolos was the last thing on his mind.
Yep.
I knew it had to do with the Kolos, but I was like, I don't know what's tipping the scales? Like, what's the move? It's not tipping the scales. It's just nudging them to do something, poking them with a stick to see what happens,
Yeah.
because it's really on a knife's edge here, actually.
I mean, I suppose it makes sense that Ellen was gonna meet with Jastes at some point, because we got him with Straff, we got
Mm,
him with Set. This had to happen eventually. Although I will admit, we knew that next chapter would be a blind, so I didn't
mhm,
actually think we would get to the Kolos stuff this chapter, and I was fully prepared to
mm.
get to it next week. But the chapter
Yeah.
just kept going on and on and on, which
I
was
know,
great.
right? Yeah, it could have ended here and we could have died, I suppose, with anticipation. So I'm glad it does continue.
Yeah. Ellen led his horse out of the tunnel into the scraggly landscape outside of Luthadel. He turned, craning to look up at the wall. Hopefully the soldiers there had gotten his message and wouldn't mistake him for a spy or a scout of one of the enemy armies. He'd rather not end up in Tindwell's histories as the ex-king who'd died by an arrow from one of his own men. Funny.
just, just a little dry. Like, oh well, yeah, that'd be a way to go.
It's nice to weave in bits of humor in such tense situations.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's not as heavy-handed as like Marvel humor or something
Oh
like
god,
that.
yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Ham led a small, grizzled woman from the tunnel. As Ellen had guessed, Ham had easily found a suitable pass wall to get them out of the city.
Well, there you go.
said the elderly woman. I love your elderly woman voice, said the elderly woman, resting on her cane. Thank you, good woman. You have served your dominance well this day. I gotta admit, that line, I cringed a little. Seems a bit pretentious.
Yeah, like, "Get over yourself, Ellen, relax." But I like her response.
Yeah, which was totally fitting. The woman snorted, raising an eyebrow. From what Ellen could tell, she was quite nearly blind. Ellen smiled, pulling out a pouch and handing it to her. She reached into it with gnarled but surprisingly dexterous fingers and counted out the contents.
3 extra.
To pay you to leave a scout here, to watch for our return.
Return? You aren't running?
No, I simply have some business with one of the armies. The woman raised the eyebrow again.
Well, none of Granny's business. For 3 clips, I can find a grandson to sit out here for a few hours. Lord really knows I have enough of him.
Ham watched her go, a spark of fondness in his eyes. How long have you known about this place? Elend asked, watching as a couple of burly men pulled close to the hidden section of stone. Half burrowed, half cut from the wall's stones themselves, the tunnel was a remarkable feat. Even after hearing about the existence of such things from Felt earlier, it was still a shock to travel through one hidden not a few minutes' ride from Keep Venture itself.
Yeah, that is quite a world changing view. You're like, oh, this is there is a complete thing that I didn't know about, and now I was told about it a few minutes ago, and now I'm actually in one, and I can see how elaborate it all is. There is so much I don't know. I would be intimidated by the shock.
Yeah. This is, in a way, the death of Ellen's naivety,
Hmm.
perhaps. What do you think of that as a statement?
I prefer this death to his complete death. So,
Yeah,
but no, it's really good. It is a really good look. I think it has happened over and over to him, philosophically and all of that. But practically, here is a death of his naivety. It's like, no, now you're practically, literally, it's look how much you didn't know before, and
mm,
this was not going to be in a book. It's that reminder of the fallibility of all of his study in books only.
right. Ham turned back to him as the false wall snapped shut. Oh, I've known of this for years and years. Granny Hilda used to give me sweets when I was a kid. Of course, that was really only a cheap way of getting some quiet, yet well-targeted publicity for her pass wall. When I was grown, I used to use this to sneak Mardra and the kids in and out of the city when they came to visit. That was an interesting line to me, mostly because I had mostly imagined him going to them
Yes.
rather than the other way around. But
Yeah.
interesting.
I suppose every now and then it happened, but yeah, I'm just maybe job wise. How do they even communicate this? But whatever, we don't need to
Yeah.
get into it.
Wait, you grew up in Luthadel? Of course. On the streets, like Vin? Ham shook his head. Not really like Vin, he said in a subdued voice, scanning the wall. I don't really think anyone grew up like Vin. I had Ska parents. My grandfather was the nobleman. I was involved with the underground, but I had my parents for a good portion of my childhood. Besides, I was a boy, and a large one. He turned toward Elend. I suspect that makes a big difference. Yeah, true.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and having both parents, very big difference. Doesn't even not even just your physical size. It's literally that you have these resources. Vin had none of that. Vin didn't even have resources at all. She
Yeah,
yeah, she had adversaries everywhere.
yep. And it's a great way for us to get more depth from Ham while
Mm,
not making it
mm.
about Ham.
Yeah.
Elend nodded. You're not going to shut this place down, are you? Ham asked. Surprised, Elend turned. Why would I? It doesn't exactly seem like the kind of honest enterprise that you would approve of. There are probably people fleeing from the city nightly through this hole. Granny Hilda is known to take coin and not ask questions, even if she does grumble at you a bit. Ham did have a point. Probably why he didn't tell me about the place until I specifically asked. His friends walked a fine line, close to their old ties with the underground, yet working hard to build up the government they'd sacrificed so much to create. I'm not
I
king.
guess, yeah, this could feel like a bit of a betrayal. It's like, you didn't tell me about it, but he understands why it wasn't until he specifically asked.
Yeah,
And I suppose if he had said to Ham, "I need a way out of the city," then this would have come up. But yeah, they are trying to preserve bits of the underground, things that need to be protected, because they still don't know what this new government is, even though they are literally right next to the new king,
you're right.
essentially.
I'm not king, Elend said, leading his horse away from the city. What Granny Hilda does isn't any of my business. Ham moved up beside him, looking relieved. Elend could see that relief dissipate as the reality of what they were doing settled in. I don't like this, Al. They stopped walking as Elend mounted. Neither do I. Ham took a deep breath, then nodded. My old nobleman friends would have tried to talk me out of this, Elend thought with amusement. Why did I surround myself with people who had been loyal to the survivor? They expect their leaders to take irrational risks. Yeah, you started this book off chronically comparing yourself to Kelsier, and here you are doing very Kelsier things.
Yeah.
Proud of you. I'm
Yeah, and
disturbed
we
and
just
perturbed by the risk you're taking, but I'm proud of you.
Mm. Yeah, and you made the comparison literally right before, where he like, "How insane are you feeling at the moment?" That line. You were like, "Yeah, that's very Kelsey." It's like, "Yeah,
But it was
yep,
also
you're
so
doing."
natural,
Yeah.
too.
Mhm. It is. It's not him just going, "Oh, I've got to try and do the most Kelsier thing here."
Yeah,
It's just, he's actually just stopping and looking behind him and saying, "Look how far I come," basically.
yeah. It's so good he's gonna die.
It's so good that he's gonna die, not it's so good he's
Yes, yes. It
you
is
know what?
so
Yes.
good that he's going to die. Because where else can you go from
It's
here?
yeah, exactly.
We joke now. When it actually happens, we'll be devastated,
It's
I'm
still
sure.
gonna listen, we had the same sort of thing with Calcia, talking about Calcia dying and
Yeah,
things like that. It was still so difficult. And I actually, now that we were talking about him, I'm like, I still miss Calcia.
me too. Me
Mm.
too. I'll go with you. No, it won't make a difference. Stay here. Wait to see if I get back. If I don't, tell Vin what happened. Sure, I'll tell her. Then I'll proceed to remove her daggers from my chest. Just make sure you return, all right? Chuckled.
Yeah, same. But just, I don't know why Vin would do that. I don't think she would. She would
Well,
just
no, it'd be
she
like,
would go crazy.
you let him go and you didn't tell me so
Yeah.
I couldn't protect him? Obviously,
Yeah.
he's
It
exaggerating like what she would
yeah.
actually do, but she'd be so furious.
And he knows, he's like, "Yeah, I'll take it. I'll remove the knives. I'll explain."
Yeah. Elend nodded, barely paying attention. His eyes were focused on the army in the distance, an army without tents, carriages, food carts, or servants. An army who had eaten the foliage to the ground in a wide swath around them. Kolos. Sweat made the reins slick in Alan's hands. This was different from before, when he'd gone into Straff's army in Set's Keep. This time, he was alone. Yes. Good
Very
Alan. Bad
alone.
Alan, but good Alan. It's,
Mhm. But he's
symbolisms.
desperate.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, he's going out alone. He's just taking the risk by himself because he has to. The stakes are high enough.
Yep. I don't know if symbolism's the right word. It's arced. You've been arced. It's part of the arc.
Mhm.
Vin couldn't get
Significant. Sorry.
significant. Yeah. Vin couldn't get him out if things went bad. She was still recovering from her wounds, and nobody knew what Elend was doing but Ham. What do I owe the people of this city? Elend thought. They rejected me. Why do I still insist on trying to protect them? I recognize that look, El. Let's go back. Elend closed his eyes, releasing a quiet sigh. Then he snapped his eyes open and kicked his horse into a gallop. Okay, it's happening.
Yep. You gotta just go. Just yeah. You just have to take literally just take your leap. That's the same sort of thing of just jumping into cold water. You're like, just do it. This is a lot worse than cold water, though.
Yeah. A long, long time ago, I took a class presentation. I
Mhm.
watched a seminar, let's call it that,
Mm.
about the differences between Eastern and Western dragons. And
Okay.
yeah, it was very interesting. Long time ago. And one of the parts that I remember was when the lecturer showed us a clip from, I think it was an animated version of The Hobbit,
Mhm.
where Bilbo is about to confront Smaug for the very first time. And he is thinking to himself something to the effect of, this is the scariest part, this
Mhm.
anticipation, what I'm everything after what
Mm.
happens is what it is, but that dragon cannot be scarier than what I imagine him to be right now.
Ooh.
And
Mhm.
that memory of that class, more so than the
Mm.
the story about the dragon itself, is what came to
Mm.
my mind when I see Elend closing his eyes, sighing, opening them, and then galloping off. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
That movement of like from, you know what, this anticipation is actually nothing. I need to get to the discomfort of the actual thing,
Mhm.
because the discomfort of anticipation is just going to only get worse. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had been years since he'd seen Kolos, and that experience had come only at his father's insistence. Straff hadn't trusted the creatures and had never liked having garrisons of them in the northern dominance, one only a few days' march from his home city of Urtio. Those Kolos had been a reminder, a warning from the Lord Ruler. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there was one of those near every major city.
Yeah, and every major stronghold you would need that. That makes sense to me.
Hmm.
It's how he kept his rule. It was a very tight rule.
Yep. Elend rode his horse hard, as if using its momentum to bolster his own will. Aside from one brief visit to the Urtio Kolos garrison, everything he knew about the creatures came from books. But Tyndall's instruction had weakened his once absolute and slightly naive trust in his learning. It will have to be enough, Elend thought as he approached the camp. He gritted his teeth, slowing his animal as he approached a wandering squad of Kolos. It was as he remembered. One large creature, its skin revoltingly split and cracked by stretch marks, led a few medium-sized ones, whose bleeding rips were only beginning to appear at the corners of their mouths and the edges of their eyes. A smattering of smaller creatures, their baggy skin loose and sagging beneath their eyes and arms, accompanied their betters. Okay? Reminding us how
Yeah.
creepy these things are.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us. I do need that reminder. Just, you know what? Yeah, and also we're in Ellen's POV. He hasn't seen them in a long time. They are very disturbing, and we do need that. Just I feel like we need that description again.
Yeah. Elend reined in his horse, trotting it over to the largest beast. Take me to Jostes. Now, I'm old enough to remember when we first met the Kolos, and I'm pretty sure, Kitty, you agreed to voice every Kolos subsequent to that chapter.
Oh, sure, yes. Well, how
Mm.
could I have forgotten?
Yes, now remember, they either don't have lips or they're saggy lips. They have lips, I just mean that they're stretched tight. So,
Mhm.
have fun with this. Take me to Jostes,
Get off your horse.
the Kolos said. I love it. It's so great. Elend looked the creature directly in the eyes. Atop his horse, he was nearly the same height. Take me to Jostes. The Kolos regarded him with a set of beady, unreadable eyes. It bore a rip from one eye socket to the other, above the nose, a secondary rip curving down to one of the nostrils. The nose itself was pulled so tight it was twisted and flattened, held to the bone a few inches off center. Ugh.
Oh, so gross. So
Visceral.
it makes it. Yeah, it makes me think of the orcs. Some of the orcs
Mm,
in Lord of the Rings.
yeah,
Just some of their noses were done that way.
yeah. This was the moment. The book said the creature would either do as commanded or simply attack him. Elend sat tensely.
Come.
The Kolos snapped, turning to walk back toward the camp. The rest of the creatures surrounded Elend's horse, and the beast shuffled nervously. Elend kept a tight hold on his reins and nudged the animal forward. It responded skittishly.
Poor horsey.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
He should have felt good at his small victory, but his tension only increased. They moved forward into the Kolos camp. It was like being swallowed, like letting a rock slide collapse around you. Kolos looked up as he passed, watching him with their red, emotionless eyes. Many others stood silently around their cooking fires, unresponsive, like men who had been born dull-minded and witless. I'm liking the
This
prose.
just is I'm liking the prose. It's making me just go, "Wow, Elend, you really are just you this is it, eh? You are really taking this risk. We're here." It's making me just feel the gravity just after I having read it and rereading it now. Just now I'm feeling it even more.
Yeah.
This like this tense, this pressure of, "Oh my god, what do we" and that's it, you're in. You're here. You can't just run now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Others fought. They killed each other, wrestling on the ground before their uncaring companions. No philosopher, scientist, or scholar had been able to determine exactly what set off a Kolos. Greed seemed a good motivation, yet they would sometimes attack when there was plenty of food, killing a companion for his hunk of beef. Pain was another good motivator, apparently, as was a challenge to authority. Carnal, visceral reasons. Yet there seemed to be times when they attacked without any cause or reason. And after fighting, they would explain themselves in calm tones, as if their actions were perfectly rational. Elend shivered as he heard yells, telling himself that he would probably be all right until he reached Jostes. Kolos usually only attacked each other. So I really like that added detail of they usually explain themselves right after, as if it were perfectly rational.
Mm.
That's a really neat. I don't know if it's a racial trait or a cultural trait or what, but
It's a
it's
it seems like biological and cultural trait that they just okay, it's sociological. Like they are very clearly very sensitive to their emotions, so they just like riotous all the time.
right.
And I feel like setting them off without any cause or reason, that's just that seems that way because you nobody understands their way of thinking. The people observing them at least don't understand what could cause them. What is their standard? What would upset them? So that's why it seems like there's no reason. But like saying I want to kill that my companion for his hunk of meat. There's no reasoning beyond the fact that you can't say to him, but you had meat too. It's like, no, but I wanted his.
Right.
And that's as far as their reasoning goes. So they could have that. It's like this weird primitiveness that they have just enough intelligence to show how far behind they are
Mhm.
in reasoning. And it's fascinating. Like this is a different species. Okay.
Right.
This is not just oh I'm not understanding their culture. This is literally a different species that we don't understand.
Right. So it seems to me that they have like no impulse control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of what's going on in my mind. So it's like if they decide they don't like somebody, attack it
Yeah.
because no impulse control.
Mm.
If they're hungry and
Yeah, it's
want
not
that
mm,
beef rather than the beef that's right in front of me, oh, that looks good. That looks better than mine. I want it. I'm going to take it.
mm. They're like talking animals.
Mhm,
Like because it's visceral, it's animal motivation.
mhm.
That's what animals work on.
Right.
It's just that these ones can speak. They can explain. It's like if a dog said to you, "I am hungry. I am eating this because I am hungry," and then you say to the dog, "But you're not hungry. I feed you every day." The dog will say, "But I am hungry." So like nature, these are talking animals. I'm understanding it this way.
I like it that way too.
Mm.
Kolos usually only attacked each other, unless they got into a blood frenzy. He pushed that thought away, instead of focusing on the things that Sazed had mentioned about his trip into the Kolos camp. The creatures wore the wide, brutish iron swords that Sazed had described. The bigger the Kolos, the bigger the weapon. When a Kolos reached a size where he thought he needed a larger sword, he had only two choices: find one that had been discarded, or kill someone and take theirs. Kolos population could often be crudely controlled by increasing or decreasing the number of swords available to the group. That was interesting.
That was so cool. So cool. Such cool world building, culture building. And it's like, oh yeah, they don't have forgery. They were given these weapons.
Hmm.
So so th- that they can be controlled in a certain way. That's exactly it. The population, they are animals.
But
They
building on the
just
population
simply.
thing, because we don't know how they breed, it's like,
Mhm.
what? Do you just plop down a dozen extra swords in the camp and then 12 more pop out of the ground? Or like, I could see it working in reverse. You put down a big sword, then some folks fight about it, and then they die. But I can't
Mhm.
see adding to the population.
Increasing or decrease. A Carlos population could often be crudely. I guess the word crudely does a lot of
Mm,
lifting there, controlled by increasing or decreasing the number of swords available to the group. So it's like if there's not enough swords, then there will be more death because they if the only thing you a big Kolos can do is get a sword from another Kolos. But if you increase the amounts available, there's actually going to be less death
gotcha.
because we don't have to kill. We have to just go and pick one up. So if there's a pile there, that's 6 more that get to stay alive.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. None of the scholars knew how the creatures bred. As Sazed had explained, these Kolos also had strange little pouches tied to their sword straps. What are they? Elend thought. Sazed said he saw the largest Kolos carrying 3 or 4, but that one leading my group has almost 20. Even the small Kolos in Elend's group had 3 pouches. That's the difference, he thought. Whatever is in those pouches, could it be the way Jastes controls the creatures? There was no way to know, save begging one of the pouches off a Kolos, and he doubted they would part with them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not. Why I'm begging? Why asking? What begging as if begging would be a thing
Well,
for these. Yeah.
I mean, I had imagined the use of begging here to be more like beggaring, like tricking one
Mhm.
off of one or sneaking one
Mm.
off of one, more so
Yeah.
than, oh,
Yeah.
please give
Begar
me
with an
one.
A.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That
But
makes sense. But yeah, with this now, with him noticing this, does this mean that this is a new thing for Kolos? That this pouch thing is new, or so it seems like it because he we have all this pre-knowledge that Kolos do this, Kolos do that, and this pouch stuff would have been part of that knowledge. That's what I think.
mm,
I would think. I would hope so. So now he's relying on Sazed's report of these Kolos having these pouches. So I don't know if this means all Kolos work this way. I don't know.
I mean, it sounds like the pouch thing is new. I have some
Mm.
theories, but we'll get to them. As he walked, he noticed another oddity. Some of the Kolos were wearing clothing. Before he'd seen them only in loincloths, as Sazed had reported, yet many of these Kolos had trousers, shirts, or skirts pulled onto their bodies. They wore the clothing without regard for size, and most pieces were so tight they had torn. Others were so loose they had to be tied on. Ellen saw a few of the larger Kolos wearing garments like bandanas tied around their arms or heads.
We are not Kolos.
The lead Kolos suddenly said, turning to Elend as they walked. Elend frowned. Explain,
You think we are Kolos.
it said through lips that were stretched too tightly to work properly.
We are humans. We will live in your city. We will kill you and we will take it.
We are humans!
Ah, that's the problem with talking animals is they can develop ideas.
Perhaps? Okay,
But I actually regard animals a lot better than I regard these things.
probably. So,
Mm.
what do you make of that line, of that situation? What's going through your mind right now?
There is enough intelligence here that culture has developed, right? But someone gave them this idea. Someone gave them this idea that they're human, and they've latched onto it. And it seems like my theory is that there's some that have latched onto it, that's what they want to do. They found some purpose to what they're doing. as this army, as opposed to just, oh, well, we kill what's in front of us. And then there's others that I would say that probably just want to be normal Kolos and continue being Kolos. So that I'll explain why I think that, as we go on. But yeah, I feel like somebody gave them this idea, they latched onto it, and you see them, this crude, it's so visually interesting, this crude idea of them just like, no, I've put clothes on, right? Look, I'm human. And that it shows just how primitive they are when they don't know how to wear it. They just have this, because it's on me and it's a human thing. I can be a human now. It's just, I've said I'm a human, and I'll live in your city. That means, and this also relates back to the way that they speak to you as if it's completely rational. They are speaking to you. Yes, we are humans. That makes sense to them. They're like, yeah, we're humans. We're gonna go in your city and we're gonna live in it. We'll kill you, and it absolutely makes sense. That will make us humans.
Right.
Any questions?
It's easy to imagine Jostas going to the Kolos and being like, hey, you've never gotten the respect that you deserve. You can be just like the humans. Fight for me. I'll pay you. You can live in one of their
Mhm.
cities and it'll be good. It'll be great. At the same
And then he
time,
kind of,
go on.
yeah.
No, go
No,
on.
and then he loses. It's like that's one way to control them for a little bit, but then it's
Yeah.
like when it comes time to pay that
Blood
price,
frenzy.
yeah,
Uh,
what happens?
yeah. The thing is, the Kolos doesn't say we are like humans. It doesn't say
Mm-mm.
we are better than humans. He says we are humans. Now hear me out.
Mm.
Hear me out. Because there are two things earlier in this chapter that inform this supposition. We don't know how they breed, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we get an inquisitor back in this chapter,
Mhm.
essentially. So
Mhm.
we know that the Lord Ruler can make inquisitors and like really mess around with people. Like, and we know he made the Khandra.
Mhm. Mm-mm.
So I'm wondering if like the
He
Kolos,
didn't make the Condra.
yeah, well they call him father.
Oh, he did make. Oh, yes, their father. Sorry. I was thinking about like their history and whatever being longer. No,
Yeah.
you're right.
So
Sorry.
so I'm wondering if the ancestral Kolos were humans,
Mhm.
or you had proposed a thought ages ago now that Lacal House was the Kolos house in the same way that Venture House was the Atium house. So I'm wondering if
Mhm.
Lacal has a way to make Kolos. So I think
Yeah,
that,
they're in charge of making them. Yeah.
yeah. So either Jostes is making Kolos, but he's changed the formula to make them think they're humans in some way, or the Kolos
Mm.
were originally humans and there's some sort of there's something there and I don't have the information yet. But what I a big thing I'm getting at here is I don't think this Kolos is lying when he says we're
Mhm.
humans.
Mhm.
And
I get it.
I think it's very specific that he doesn't say we are like humans or something like that.
Mhm.
But I don't know what to.
Yeah.
Mm, I want more.
But yeah, they're still far off enough from humanity that
Mhm.
it's like, I would, more accurately would be, we were once human. I would accept that makes sense. But it makes sense that, them in their state, they would say we are human. That's it,
Yeah,
and believe it. So, but they are categorically not human,
yeah, they're pretty not human, I would say.
not anymore.
No. Ellen shivered, realizing the source of the mismatched garments. They had come from the village that the Kolos had attacked, the one whose refugees had trickled into Luthadel. This appeared to be a new development in Kolos thinking, or had it always been there, repressed by the Lord Ruler? The scholar in Elend was fascinated. The rest of him was simply horrified. His Kolos guide paused before a small group of tents, the only such structures in the camp. Then the lead Kolos turned and yelled, startling Ellen's horse. Elend fought to keep his mount from throwing him as the Kolos jumped and attacked one of its companions, proceeding to pummel it with a massive fist. Elend won his struggle. The lead Kolos did not.
Right. So lead Kolos guy who's like, we are human. He's just said we are human. He died. That guy died
Yep.
because of reasons. So I was thinking, if this is a new part of their thinking, are there factions within them that some just don't understand this we are human idea, and maybe there's like groups of them that are like, no, like this could have set that person off, but then he yelled. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is there might be maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but there might be factions within the Kolos that are like, we are Kolos. We just kill. That's what we're stick
Yeah.
to our tradition.
I
You're being too modern.
yeah. I certainly don't think that Jostes has every Kolos. I bet there are still Kolos garrisons out in the world elsewhere,
Mhm.
at the very
No, yeah,
least.
but I'm saying in
But
this camp,
but
part of the
yes,
tensions.
yes, in this camp
Mm.
there's division, ideological. Whatever ideological division there can be between these
They're
creatures.
capable of.
Elend climbed off his horse, patting the beast on the neck as the victimized Kolos pulled his sword from the chest of his former leader. The survivor, who now bore several cuts in his skin that hadn't come from stretching, bent down to harvest the pouches tied to the corpse's back. Elend watched with a muted fascination as the Kolos stood and spoke.
He was never a good leader.
It said in a slurred voice.
Mm.
I can't let these monsters attack my city, Elend thought. I have to do something. He pulled his horse forward, turning his back on the Kolos as he entered the secluded section of camp, watched over by a group of nervous young men in uniforms. Elend handed his reins to one of them. Take care of this for me, Elend said, striding forward. Wait! One of the soldiers said. Halt! See, Elend is still so commanding, even in this situation. Good for him.
Yeah.
Elend turned sharply, facing the shorter man, who was trying to both level his spear at Elend and keep an eye on the Kolos. Elend didn't intend to be harsh. He simply wanted to keep his own anxiety under control and keep moving. The resulting glare would probably have impressed even Tindwell. The soldier jerked to a halt. I am Elend Venture. You know that name? The man nodded. You may announce me to Lord Lacal. Just get to the tent before I do. The young man took off at a dash. Elend followed, striding up to the tent, where other soldiers stood hesitantly. It's really, really interesting to see Elend be so commanding. He was so authoritative as well. He was
Mhm.
confident in his meeting with Set, but I didn't feel like he was authoritative, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. You didn't feel yourself going, "Okay, hurry, let's go. Let's do what he says." I don't know, it feels a bit more, it feels stronger here,
Strong, yeah.
commanding here, yeah. It's stronger and natural. And yes, we know he's nervous, but it's natural. It's
Hmm.
coming naturally. Like, yeah, sure, he doesn't mean to be harsh or whatever, but this was it's instinctual now. It's a habit he's in. It's a characteristic. This is how he operates now. It's not him. Maybe in those previous ones he was focusing on trying to be this way, but now it's just natural.
Yeah. What must it have done to them? Elend wondered, living surrounded by Kolos, so terribly outnumbered. Feeling a stab of pity, he didn't try to bully his way in. He stood with faux patience until a voice called from within. Let him enter. Elend brushed past the guards and threw open the tent flap. The months had not been kind to Jostes Lacal. The few wisps of hair on his head looked far more pathetic than complete baldness would have. His suit was sloppy and stained, his eyes underscored by a pair of deep bags. He was pacing and jumped slightly when Elend entered. So, right off the bat, Elend, you should realize this guy's probably not stable. You should be very careful how you speak.
He's frazzled. And you've just thought about what would it have done to those men outside,
Hmm.
living surrounded by Kolos. This is the guy at the center trying to control them.
Yeah. And it's all well and good to be so authoritative and commanding. It really is, but tailor that to who you're speaking to, Elend.
Mhm.
He was pacing and jumped slightly when Elend entered. Then he froze for a moment, eyes wide. Finally, he raised a quivering hand to push back hair he didn't have. Elend? What in the Lord Ruler's name happened to you? Responsibility, Shastas. It appears that neither of us were ready for it.
Ooh, hold on. Sorry. Just the fact that he's shocked, right? His eyes are wide. He knows that this is Elend, right? So he's not
Yeah.
going to be shocked that it's Elend. But he looks, so just looking at his body language, he raised a quivering hand to push back hair he didn't have. So he's self-grooming. He's like, oh shit. He knows how he looks compared to how Elend looks. Maybe he was expecting Elend not to look that good. He wasn't expecting Elend to look at all
Yeah, well, we
like
know
this.
he's gotten buff. We know he's gotten more
Mhm.
commanding. So we know it was
Yeah.
enough to shock Vin at one point. So
Mhm.
I'm sure he looks
Yeah.
very different. And the disparity here immediately sets off in my mind that Jastes will be quick to jump to
Mm.
emotions like greed and envy and hate and
Yes.
things, which is why
Absolutely.
I'm so frustrated with Elend not picking up on some of these things and tailoring it. But it's fine because when you are as unstable as Jastes is,
Mm.
it might not matter what you say or
Yeah, I
if
don't
you say things
yeah.
as EQ as possible because the
And
Jastes
also just
mind is still
mm,
gonna jump to whatever terrible thing he can.
mhm. Yeah, and also just bear in mind that Elend is pissed off with Justice, okay?
Hmm.
Elend had his own challenges, yes, of course. He even admits his you'll see how he measures his challenges next to Justice's ones. But what happened to you? Responsibility. Look how Elend dealt with responsibility. He looks beautiful. Look at you, Justice, with responsibility.
Hmm.
Did not do go so well. And Ellen could be disappointed in his friend for that as well. And he's just seen these monsters outside his city. It's like what are you doing, bro? So I understand that there's probably little patience left for Justice.
Yeah. And how much of what Elend knows about Jastes and what happened, I'm inclined to think Elend does know Jastes's
Mm,
sad history.
yeah. Yeah, he knows. He definitely knows, and but at the same time, that doesn't make it okay for him to bring these Kolos over here.
I don't know. I feel pretty. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Responsibility, Jastes. It appears that neither of us were ready for it. Out, Jastes said, waving to his guards. They shuffled past Elend, closing the tent flap behind them. It's been a while, Elend, Jastes said, chuckling weakly. Elend nodded. I remember those days. Sitting in your den or mine, sharing a drink with Teldon. We were so innocent, weren't we? Innocent, but hopeful. Want something to drink? Jastes said, turning toward the room's desk. Elend eyed the bottles and flasks lying in the corner of the room. They were all empty. Jastes removed a full bottle from the desk and poured Elend a small cup, the size and clear color an indication that this was no simple dinner wine.
Vodka.
Vodka! Elend accepted the small cup but did not drink. What happened, Jastes? How did the clever, thoughtful philosopher I knew turn into a tyrant? Tyrant? Jastes snapped, downing his cup in a single shot. I'm no tyrant. Your father's the tyrant. I'm merely a realist. Sitting at the center of a Kolos army doesn't seem to be a very realistic position to me. So, I almost wish Jastes had said pragmatist rather than realist,
Mhm,
because I think Ellen's line would sound better if it said pragmatist position instead of
mhm,
realistic position, but I
yeah,
get the point and I get what Sanderson is trying to accomplish with it.
mhm. It doesn't hit as hard because we're just talking about realistic, and realism doesn't hit as hard as pragmatic and pragmatism.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Because we know Jastes refers to himself as a realist in the past, I think. So it
Mhm.
works for that, but I for some reason I'm just struggling with the word realistic coming from Elland in this sentence. There's something,
Yeah, it's the sentence. It's literally just the wording of it.
yeah.
I know what you mean. It's such a subtle. It's a tiny little criticism that doesn't But I agree with you. Words matter, and it just wouldn't hit. It's clunky. It's a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound as much of an own as it could have sounded like.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But that could also be a grander part that Sanderson is trying to play at, because obviously this conversation's not going to go well.
Yeah, true.
I can control them. And Suina? The village they slaughtered? Justus wavered. That was an unfortunate accident. Elend looked down at the drink in his hand, then threw it aside, the liquor splashing on the dusty tent floor. So melodramatic, Elend.
Yeah, but still, like, you know what? When that happened, I was like, "Whoa!" That was a very short fuse.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, but then again, I can see why Ellen would lose it at this point because it's like you just called basically the slaughter of an entire village, and I've just seen the grotesque results of that with villagers' clothing being worn in grotesque ways. Thank you very much. I've just seen that outside, and you say it's an unfortunate accident. I'm
Yep.
done with you. So I get why he's just like, okay, I'm not even gonna try and take this gently.
Yeah. This isn't my father's den, and we are not friends any longer. I will call no man friend who leads something like this against my city. What happened to your honor, Justus Lacal? Justus snorted, glancing at the spilled liquor. That's always been the problem with you, Elend. So certain, so optimistic, so self-righteous. It was our optimism, Ellen said, stepping forward. It was our optimism. We wanted to change things, Justus, not destroy them. Is that so? Justus countered, showing a temper Elend had never seen in his friend. You want to know why I'm here, Elend? Did you even pay attention to what was happening in the Southern Dominance while you played in Luthadel? I'm sorry about what happened to your family, Justus. So, okay, yeah, so he did know what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry about what happened to your family, Justus. Sorry? Justus said, snatching the bottle off his desk. You're sorry? I implemented your plans, Elend. I did everything we talked about. Freedom, political honesty. I trusted my allies rather than crushing them into submission. And you know what happened? Elend closed his eyes. They killed everyone, Elend. That's what you do when you take over. You kill your rivals and their families, even the young girls, even the babies, and you leave their bodies as a warning. That's good politics. That's how you stay in power. It's easy to believe in something when you win all the time, Justus, Ellen said, opening his eyes. The losses are what define a man's faith. Terrible thing to say, Ellen. Terrible thing to say.
I don't know if it's that terrible, okay? I okay, it's difficult to say. I think that's what it is. It's not as bad, might I say, as saying it was an unfortunate accident. Hmm? So maybe it's a very he's trying to impart this lesson across to a very unstable, wounded, broken man who's actually had to learn it a lot harder than he did. That yeah, okay, this optimism, this belief does come with costs. So I know it's difficult, but loss is a big word. It's a big enough word for me. So yeah, I know it's difficult said. So when I know when you noted Ellen puts his foot in his mouth, I knew this is what you were going to say.
Yeah.
It was this part that you were referring to. But
No, when.
at the same time, I'm on Ellen's side.
Sorry, do not offer some philosophical
Hmm. Yeah.
unhelpful statement to someone who just told you that your entire family was killed and
Mm.
their bodies
Yeah.
desecrated as a warning. You say
Yeah,
I'm you
absolutely.
say I'm so
You say, "I'm
sorry that
sorry."
happened to you. You say
Yes,
that's
true, true.
the worst kind of injustice. You say I wish there
You
was
focus
something
on
I
that.
could do to make it right. Any number of things, but you do not
Yeah, you
come
don't
in
try and
with a
make this lesson.
philosophical
Yeah.
minimalizing. Yeah,
Not
no,
no. Yeah, you especially after that big speech. By the way, really enjoyed how you acted that.
thank you.
The it's yeah, especially after him showing that much pain. Yeah, I know that's where you want him to go, Ellen, and where we want him to take this pain, and where you want the lesson to come. But that's not going to happen in this amount of time and in this moment. This moment, he's expressing pain, and yeah, it. What I found interesting is that he really seems to blame Ellen for the way it came out.
Hmm.
Initially, I thought it was because Ellen had given him instructions. Because he said, I implemented your plan. So I was like, oh, holy crap. Initially, I was just really upset with Ellen because I was like, wait, he had plans with Justice and then you just left him hanging? It's like, no, actually, he went and did things that Ellen supposedly would have done. And them not working out is sudden. He's with so much pain. Obviously, he's decided he can blame Ellen for it. He
Yeah.
can blame Ellen for the failings of optimism. He can blame Ellen for being for the failings, as opposed to what Ellen went through, where Ellen came out of the optimism into realism, proper realism, pragmatism,
Yeah.
wisdom.
I mean, I certainly would have hoped that Elend and Jostes's kingdoms would have made each other allies. I suspect
Mm.
that what happened to Jostes happened relatively quickly.
Hmm.
Here's the thing: you can do those things, but you also have to be good at reading people. Like it doesn't mean
Hmm.
you willy-nilly get in bed with your enemies. You still, like, you pick good men around you to, well, to surround yourself with, and you have to be strong.
Yeah, his execution was not good enough. He didn't have the people around him that Ellen does. He has the whole underground. He has Vin, who is the paranoid one. So he has his idealism, but it's tempered by all of the people surrounding him.
Yeah.
That and he learned from them. Where this guy seems to think that, oh, because I did the right thing, it should have worked out. It's like, no, because I did the right thing, that doesn't mean other people are going to suddenly do the right thing too. I need to find a way to work them so that they come around to the right way. You got to work around that.
Yeah, you still have to be a leader.
Yeah, you still have to be a leader. You still have to think. You still have to anticipate what other people are going to do. You still have to understand that they're still your enemies. Just because you don't view them as they view you, you still have to be a bit smart about it. So I think in execution, I think this really did happen because Justice wasn't he wasn't prepared for it. You can
Yeah.
see that. It was even more ill prepared and unsupported.
Yes. Now, all
Mm.
of that said, I don't think I've ever claimed to be as good as Ellen. Is that correct? Is that a fair statement for me to
No,
make? No, I haven't?
I don't think you
Cool.
have. Yeah.
Okay. I'm Team Jostes now.
Oh my goodness. No. What? I hope you're joking.
I mean, don't take your Kolos army to Luthadel. They didn't do anything, but sure, go ahead and use the Kolos to wipe out every single person that destroys my family and does that. Yeah.
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 Oh yeah. But then again, yeah, okay, if I'm the Kolos house, I suppose. But then now I'm stuck because the Kolos now are restless. I can understand that, but Luthadel, yeah, coming after Elend, maybe
Yeah.
it's also desperation. It's just like, I'll just do this. I'll just do this. I'll just do this and see how it works out. And because he's broken. This Justice is completely unstable and torn to ribbons. There's not much left here, actually.
Yeah. I really do hope he did, like, use the Kolos to destroy those specific
Hmm.
people.
Enemies,
Yeah,
yeah.
like before
Yeah.
marching on Luthadel. Because I
Mhm.
I do feel bad for Jostes. He was such a good boy.
I do as well. Yeah, he had the right ideas, but he couldn't follow through, he couldn't hold on through it, and he clearly went through a lot. Like that you put their bodies, like they're obviously that's good politics. Oh god, so horrible.
Yeah.
Who are these people? I hope they are dead.
Yeah. Losses? My sister was a loss? No, I mean, enough! Jostes said, slamming the bottle down on his desk. Guards! Two men threw back the tent flap and moved into the room. Take His Majesty captive, Jostes said with an unsteady wave of his hand. Send a messenger to the city. Tell them that we want to negotiate. I'm not king anymore, Jastes. Jastes stopped. Do you think I'd come here and let myself get captured if I were king? They deposed me. The assembly invoked a no-confidence clause and chose a new king. You bloody idiot! Losses, Jastes. It hasn't been as hard for me as it was for you, but I do think I understand.
You see, he doesn't. Yeah, look, it's not going to work. That's not going to. He's just saying that for himself because nothing you say is going to get through to
Yeah, I'm
justice.
sorry. Being deposed is not comparable
Mhm,
to having your
mhm.
entire family wiped out and then
Slaughtered.
deposed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Ellen, if you really did want to make some sort of empathetic opening, you could say, my father tried to have me killed. My father tried to have me killed several times now.
Yeah, but then it becomes
That's
Olympics of
closer.
like who. Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's closer at least.
yeah.
Yeah, but maybe just you maybe don't say losses. Just say I understand. I've also gone through some. No, not even I've also. Just don't make it a comparison. Actually,
Yeah.
don't.
Losses, Jastas. It hasn't been as hard for me as it was for you, but I do think I understand. So, Jastas said, running a hand through his wisps of hair, that fancy suit and haircut didn't save you, eh? Take your Kolos and go, Jastas. That sounded like a threat, Elend. You aren't king. You don't have an army, and I don't see your Mistborn around. What grounds do you have for threats? They're Kolos. Do you really want them getting into the city? It's your home, Jastes. Or it was once. There are thousands of people inside. See, that was an interesting line that Elend should have doubled down on. He could have said something like,
Mm-hmm.
come with me to the city, send the Kolos home, and be a part of my new family. My dad tried to
Mm-hmm.
kill me, so I'm just as much an orphan as you are now. But I have
Mm-hmm.
a found family with the crew. You could come. You can.
Obviously, don't say it exactly that way.
Of
But yeah.
course not. But that's something you could do to get
Mm-hmm.
to him. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
This is what
No,
I
and
do
also
when I
just
read books and I like get really
mm-hmm.
invested. I start thinking like, oh, you could say
What
this,
would
you
I
could
do?
say that,
Yeah.
and that's kind of fun for me.
That's fun. It's not, "Oh, it should have been written this way." It's,
Correct.
this is what when you hear a story, you go, "What would I do?" That's
Yeah.
always a thing. It's just, what should this person be doing? And, "Ooh, what do I think of what they're doing?" That's what's so, awesome about, and that's also why I like our format of going through it so granularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Fun and neat things to think about.
Mhm.
I can control my army. No, I doubt you can. What happened, Jastas? Did they decide they needed a king? They decided that's the way humans did it, so they should do it too? What is it that they carry in those pouches? See, now that's smart, Ellen. He knows that Jastas is getting unstable, but he's trying to get that little
Mhm.
bit of information. I
That's true. He needs to get something out of this, and you know what? Yes, if there wasn't this past between them, like if they could, because also Justice needs to admit you are not in control, and he can reach out to Ellen for help in this
mm-hmm,
because clearly this is a problem. I feel like you made sense of it a lot more for me. That okay, so say he uses the Kolos to wipe out his enemies because of what they did to his family. Cool, that makes sense, but then they start to be a force unto their own, and he has to keep them moving, and he kind of is controlled by them and has been, so he doesn't know what to do, so he just takes them to Luthadel. It's just
mm-hmm,
part of his desperate clawing to find some way to get rid of them or to use them because they are so chaotic. If
mm-hmm.
they could have remained connected, Elend and Justice, they could have tried to figure out, and obviously we would have had completely different conversations. But yeah, we don't have that. We just have the explosion that's happened.
Yep. Jastas didn't answer. Ellen sighed. What happens when one of them snaps and attacks you? Jastas shook his head. I'm sorry, Ellen. I can't let Straff get that atium. So that makes me wonder
Whoa.
what atium has to do with the Kolos. I doubt he has enough such that he's paying the Kolos with atium. I wonder if the atium has something to do with how to make Kolos.
Okay, yeah, maybe. Okay, so I'm seeing that because we've already had the connection between the Kandra and Atium and the Kolos and Atium. Cool, I understand. So yeah, making. I think I could see Atium being part of making and controlling Kolos.
Mhm. See, here's the thing. There was so
So,
much focus on not knowing how they breed that I think they do not
mm,
breed. I think they're made.
okay, but then they need to be involved in the control of Kolos
Hmm.
because why would you be desperate to get more Kolos? Why would you be desperate when you are trying to control them? Why would you be desperate for more of them if Atium
Mm.
equals more Kolos? So I'm
Well,
saying
maybe
Atium
he's.
is
I,
that
I mean, maybe
yeah,
he's afraid the secret will get out, and that Straff will make Kolos, and then Straff will be unstoppable with Kolos that
that's
answer
true.
to him.
Mm. Yeah, that is a possibility.
Hmm.
So I'm on the line. I don't know. I just know that the atium is significant. But that what that
Yeah,
makes me think of is that this is part of his desperation. He needs that atium. This is a very important line for us to read. I can't let Straff get that atium.
yeah,
He needs the atium. What this man needs is the atium, and that's what he's why he's willing to risk all of this. Why?
yeah, yeah. There's a very important mystery there.
This atium is required for everyone for all different reasons, which is
Hmm.
really amazing. I love it.
Yeah. I can't let Straff get that atium. And my people? Justus paused only briefly, then lowered his eyes and motioned to the guards. One laid a hand on Ellen's shoulder. Ellen's reaction surprised even himself. He slammed his elbow up into the man's face, shattering his nose, then took the other man down with a kick to the leg. Before Justus could do more than cry out, Elend jumped forward. Elend ripped an obsidian knife, given to him by Vin, from his boot and caught Justus by the shoulder. Elend slammed the whimpering man around, pushing him backward onto the desk and, barely thinking to consider his actions, rammed the knife into his old friend's shoulder. Justus emitted a loud, pathetic scream.
That was
Ooh!
so cool. I'm sorry. It was so cool. I don't know. I was shocked as well, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, Ellen, you're buff," and it's yeah. I got very female about all of this. I'm like, "Go, Ellen, yeah, use your masculine power." Ooh.
So at this point, I'm starting to think Ellen's maybe a little bit of an adrenaline junkie right now. I think he's got
Yeah.
so many chemicals swirling in his mind from the stress, from the city, from the
Mm.
Kolos, from everything, that I wonder how rational he's being in doing this. I think
Oh,
it's,
he's not.
yeah, I agreed.
Yeah, he's just acting. He's just acting.
Yeah,
He's just going on instinct, which Vin always does anyway. So like but it's so striking coming from him because this is him like breaking forth a little bit, like just losing control a bit and just doing something because he's just so done with it all. But the thing is now he has the capability. He suddenly he does have actually a bit more strength in his body and that knowledge is deep in his mind. That's why he can have this fight.
yeah,
I thought it was so cool.
very cool. Less cool in the future, even though he's
Mm,
successful, but it's right now pretty
mm,
cool. Foolhardy in the future. Anyway, we'll get to
mhm.
that.
Jeez, yeah, I was like, Jesus, if this wasn't enough.
If killing you would do anything useful, Jastes, I'd do it right now. But I don't know how you control these things, and I don't want to set them loose. Soldiers piled into the room. Elend didn't look up. He slapped Jastes, stopping his cries of pain. You.
So good.
So good. You listen. I don't care if you've been hurt. I don't care if you don't believe in the philosophies anymore, and I don't really care if you get yourself killed playing politics with Straff and Set. But I do care if you threaten my people. I want you to march your army out of my dominance. Go attack Straff's homeland, or maybe Set's. They're both undefended. I promise you I won't let your enemies get the atium. And as a friend, I'll give you a bit of counsel. Think about that wound in your arm for a little while, Jastes. I was your best friend, and I nearly killed you. What the hell are you doing sitting in the middle of an entire army of deranged Kolos? So, whew, that's a nice monologue
So
right there.
that was brilliant. You know what I was thinking of? Like, if this was in a series, it would be those moments that you just rewatch and rewatch and rewatch, like that scene where he did this,
Yeah.
this is it. It's and also just the way Brandon Sanderson writes it just makes me think of like this is like I would expect this to be like an episode that then everybody goes and talks about afterwards. Did you see what Ellen did this week? Kind of thing. Because it is it's he's arcing so hard right now.
Yep. It's great. This is the king.
Mhm. Freaking love it. I think I'm crushing on Ellen.
Oh,
Sorry, Vin, don't kill me.
so what happened to your Zane crush then?
Ellen self-actualized.
Still
Zane is
working on
just like
that. Fair. This is great, Ellen. Soldiers surrounded him. Ellen stood, ripping the knife from Justice's body and spinning the man around, pressing the weapon against his throat. The guards froze. I'm leaving, Ellen said, pushing the confused Justice ahead of him, moving out of the tent. He noticed with some concern that there were barely a dozen human guards. Sazed had counted more. Where had Justice lost them? There was no sign of Ellen's horse, so he kept a wary eye on the soldiers, pulling Justice toward the invisible line between the human camp and the Kolos one. Ellen turned as he reached the perimeter, then pushed Justice back toward his men. They caught him, one pulling out a bandage for the arm. Others made moves as if to chase Ellen, but they lingered, hesitant. Ellen had crossed the line into the Kolos camp. He stood quietly, watching the pathetic group of young soldiers, Justice at their center. Even as they ministered to him, Ellen could see the look in Justice's eyes. Hatred. He wouldn't retreat. The man Ellen had known was dead, replaced by this product of a new world that didn't kindly regard philosophers and idealists. That was sad.
Mm. Yeah, it's very sad. It's like the new world is something he had to deal with as well. That's
Yeah.
what he meant by I think I understand. That's the losses and things that he had to go through, but it's just a bit too
Yeah.
emotional to
So,
make that comparison. But yeah.
yeah. So here's the thing. Zane is insane, or at least Straff thinks he's insane. And Straff's
Mm,
response to that is to wield his power against Zane, to show strength and to show no weakness whatsoever in front of
mhm,
Zane.
mhm,
And naturally, it's not really going to work out all that well for Straff.
mm,
Clearly, Elend, his intention throughout the bulk of that was presumably to get Jastas to leave. And Jastas, while not necessarily insane, is certainly unstable. Now,
mhm,
I could hear an argument, or rather, I could reasonably believe that someone could believe the way to force Jastas to act in a certain way is to show strength, not in a dissimilar way in which Straff tries to show strength toward Zane. Except for this last line in this last segment, which was that he saw in his eyes hatred, Jastas wouldn't leave. So, in that sense, Elend was unsuccessful in what he had set out to do by coming out here.
mhm,
We also know from the previous chapter, Elend may not, but we know, that Jastas's thing was no one respects me, no one's taking me seriously. It's why I
mhm,
felt so strongly early on that Elend needed to go in with a bit more of an empathetic tactic
mhm,
here. Don't
mhm,
offer meaningless philosophical platitudes, or at least not ones that make light of the tragedy that you have suffered. Go in and say, you have my attention. I'm listening. I am taking you seriously. I have to protect my people. Respect that, but I'm sorry for everything that's happened to you. But we're moving forward now. Let's have a different conversation. You
I'm not
know?
telling you what to do. Let's converse. Let's discuss.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Mhm,
Kolos coming into the city, me giving up the city, that's a non-option right now, but I'm willing to hear you out and
mm.
see if we can talk a way through this.
Yeah, do more of a negotiation. That would make more sense and would probably have been more successful, but considering where they're at now, the
Yeah,
pressure points that they're at,
yeah,
obviously, it doesn't make character sense at the moment. It's just
agreed.
that would have been the ideal
Yeah.
thing that they would have worked.
I think that tactic might have been more effective for the unique
Mm,
personality that is Justes. But of course,
yeah.
when does anything ever work out in books? We're
Yeah,
watching
exactly,
a
and
story.
mm,
Story has to have tension. Things have to go wrong.
mhm, yeah. And he's tipping the scales. That remember I was talking about how delicate the scales are. He's like
Hmm.
something has to happen. When things are that delicate, geez, just even moving around the scales will
Hmm.
do something.
Yeah,
So you don't even he's just actually decided to just be a catalyst.
yeah,
Whatever has happened here has just been cataclysmic.
yeah.
It started something.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't think rephrase. I think the Kolos are a strong enough threat to take on all three armies.
Mhm.
So I think it would be too much to hope for Elend to hope to set off the Kolos outside the city to take on the other two armies and then expect
Mm.
for Luthadel in the walls to be okay. I don't think it
Yeah.
was necessarily his goal to set off the
No.
Kolos.
No, not at all. He was just trying to confront this
Hmm.
Kolos problem in
Yeah,
any way possible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Elend turned away, walking among the Kolos. A group of them quickly approached. The same one as before? He couldn't tell for certain. Take me out, Elend commanded, meeting the eyes of the largest Kolos in the team. Either Elend seemed more commanding now, or this Kolos was more easily cowed, for there was no argument. The creature simply nodded and began to shuffle out of the camp, his team surrounding Elend. This trip was a waste, Elend thought with frustration. All I did was antagonize Jostes. I risked my life for nothing. If only I could find out what was in those pouches. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, so he's like, "Okay, I can't believe that." Okay, he's just yes, this is where you should fall apart and go, "Oh my god, you saw the hatred in your friend's eyes. He's got Kolos. Oh my god, I've just messed everything up." And he's just like, "Ah, I haven't really gotten anything from here." So he is still on this adrenaline high
Yeah, that's really what it is.
or
That is
testosterone high,
yep.
honestly.
It's totally what motivates his next action.
Mm. He's so frustrated. He just wants to. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to get some of that energy out.
Mhm.
He eyed the group of Kolos around him. It was a typical group, ranging in size from 5 feet to one 10-foot monstrosity. They walked along with slumped, unengaged postures. Alan still had his knife out. This is stupid, he thought. For some reason, that didn't stop him from choosing the smallest Kolos in the group, taking a deep breath, and attacking. Oh shit.
Okay, Ellen. What? I was like, is this okay? Because we're going through so much arcing. So I'm like, okay, is this when he dies?
If this is how he died, it would almost be anticlimactic.
It would be. It would be. Absolutely. Not almost. It would be.
Yeah. But I did expect a cliffhanger for the chapter. I did
Mm.
like God, there were so many times I expected this chapter to end and it just kept going. I did not expect us to know what the result of the fight would be.
Mhm.
So there's that.
I'm glad we do. I'm glad.
Me too.
I'm
I'd have
not
been
complaining at
so
all.
mad if I had to sit on that for 5 weeks, 4 from the vacation, and then ugh. The rest of the Kolos stopped to watch. The creature Elend had chosen spun, but in the wrong direction. It turned to face its companion Kolos, the one nearest to it in size, as Elend tackled it, ramming the knife into its back. Even at 5 feet, with a small build, the Kolos was incredibly strong. It tossed Elend off, bellowing in pain. Elend managed to keep hold of his dagger. Can't let it get out that sword, he thought, scrambling to his feet and ramming his knife into the creature's thigh. The Kolos dropped again, punching at Elend with one arm, fingers reaching for its sword with the other. Elend took the punch to the chest and fell back to the sooty ground. He groaned, gasping. The Kolos pulled out its sword but had trouble standing. Both knife wounds bled stark red blood. The liquid seemed brighter, more reflective than that of a human, but that might have only been a contrast with the deep blue skin.
Beautiful prose. I enjoyed that.
Yup. Ominous. I would love to
Mhm.
see this animated. I bet it would look so
Mhm.
great.
Mm.
Blue and red are good colors that go with each other.
Yeah. Contrast. Yeah.
The Kolos finally managed to gain its feet, and Elend realized his mistake. He'd let the adrenaline of his confrontation with Jastas, his frustration at his inability to stop the armies, drive him. He'd sparred a lot lately, but he was in no position to take a Kolos. Ah,
Well,
that.
he knows it. That's great. Thanks for that self insight, but you're still fucked. So
Yep. Yep. So stupid. So too stupid. But it was far too late to worry about that now. See, I almost half expected him to just like run and then be chased, and then be like, Ham, run! Run, Ham! And then they run back to the door, they shut the door, and then suddenly the attack on the
Nah.
city has started.
Oh no, no, no. I would have hated that.
Yeah.
I don't want Elid running. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Elend rolled out of the way as a thick club like sword smashed to the ground beside him. Instincts overrode terror, and he mostly managed to avoid the backswing. It took him a bit in the side, spraying a patch of blood across his once white uniform, but he barely even felt the cut. Only one way to win a knife fight against a guy with a sword, Elend thought, gripping his knife. The thought oddly hadn't come from one of his trainers, or even from Vin. He wasn't sure where it came from, but he trusted it. Close in tight as fast as possible and kill it quickly. Okay,
Hmm.
this was a
Interesting.
very important passage, so
Mm.
I think it's the whispers.
Okay. It's something the providence, something helping.
Yeah, something supernatural. It's italicized
Mhm.
like the thoughts.
Mhm. And it says Ellen thought. So
Yes,
it is his thought. He doesn't say said something
right.
said to Ellen in his head. So it's not that's why I didn't go to whispers.
Gotcha. I could be
But
wrong.
it is so significant. It's so
Yeah,
significant. Why did he have this? Why did Sanderson have to tell us
yeah,
that it wasn't from Vin and it wasn't from anyone he's trained with? What does that mean? What what
yeah.
what are you pointing at there?
It's
Yeah.
the not knowing where it comes that made me think it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Elend attacked. The Kolos swung as well. Elend could see the attack, but couldn't do anything about it. He could only throw himself forward, knife raised, teeth clenched. He rammed his knife into the Kolos's eye, barely managing to get inside the creature's reach. Even so, the hilt of the sword hit him in the stomach. Both dropped. Oof, okay, but it's the hilt, so he's not
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
not gushing
Not the
intestines.
pointy end. Yeah.
Both dropped. Elend groaned quietly, slowly becoming aware of the hard ash packed earth and weeds eaten down to their roots. A fallen twig was scratching his cheek. Odd that he would notice that, considering the pain in his chest. He stumbled to his feet. The Kolos he'd attacked did not rise. Its companions stood, looking unconcerned, though their eyes were focused on him. They seemed to want something. He ate my horse, Ellen said, saying the first thing that came to his clouded mind.
So
Funny.
happy that was great. That was really it's like it works.
Yep. And I
Like,
love
they were waiting for something.
yeah.
It's
And I
always
and I I love that the Kolos just kind of treat him like, "Yep, that's normal
yeah,
behavior."
the yeah, geez, I hate it when people eat my horse. Yeah, this is see,
Yep.
that guy deserved it.
Yep.
And we're not gonna investigate or whatever, we're just like, "It worked." Uh,
Yup. The group of Kolos nodded. Ellen stumbled forward, wiping the ash from his cheek with a dazed hand as he knelt beside the creature. He ripped his knife out, then slid it back into his boot. Next, he unfastened the pouches. This Kolos had two. Finally, not certain why, he grabbed the creature's large
hmm.
sword and rested it up on his shoulder. That's gonna be Vin's sword from the
Yes, the
picture.
picture.
Yeah.
That's what I picked up. So, and also here's the I didn't realize it now, but now just because of how we read it, not sure why. So it's another thing. He's just not sure why, but he just this is the prophecy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is Ellen fulfilling prophecy? Come on.
Mm,
Not sure why. Listen, I'm Wheel of Timing because a lot of stuff with prophecy and Wheel of Time is just it just happens as it's
mm.
supposed to. Whoa. Love that it's going to become something later on because of that picture.
Right. Okay, but hear me out. Soothers can emanate,
Mm.
soothing energy. What if the Kolos like emanate Kolos energy, and that's what motivated
Yeah.
Ellen to do the thing?
Yes. Not knowing why.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, not the not knowing why, but maybe just the energy, the aggression. Maybe
Right.
they riot. They
R-
riot you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Hmm.
Finally, not
Yay,
certain why
marvelous.
he grabbed the creature's large sword and rested it up on his shoulder. It was so weighty that he could barely carry it and certainly wouldn't be able to swing it. How does a creature so small use something like this? The Kolos
That
watched.
just makes me go sorry. That just made me go, "Oh, Vin's gonna be able to wield that so easily." And
Yep.
that's gonna be, just a cool setup that we
Well,
got there.
and that's the thing. So
Mm.
I don't think it's atium in the pouches, but I bet
Mhm.
it's either pewter or whatever the riot metal is.
Hmm. I did not consider that. I was thinking Atium, but then again, there's so many, so I don't it would have to be tiny little beads. I don't know.
Hmm.
I think that makes much more sense than Atium being in the pouches. But then again, we'll get to it. Let's get to the last line here.
Okay, okay, okay. How does a creature so small use something like this? The Kolos watched him work without comment, then they let him out of the camp. Once they had retreated, Elend pulled open one of the pouches and looked inside. He shouldn't have been surprised by what he found. Jostes had decided to control his army the old fashioned way. He was paying them.
Great, thanks for that. There's your cliffhanger. It's a very different kind of cliffhanger. It's like, yeah, he's paying them in what, sir? But obviously, we're not going to know that because we need our cliffhanger.
Yep.
So here's the discussion. I did think Atium initially, but it's like now it's not making a lot of sense because that's a lot of Atium. Then maybe it's tiny little beads that they have in the pouches, like literally one pouch per bead,
Hmm.
or one bead per pouch, same thing. That's what I immediately thought because of him going, I need that Atium, or Straff can't get that Atium. It's that made me think. But now with you talking about it maybe being pewter or the rioting metal or the soothing metal or something, yeah, you've given me a lot to think about because of that creation of Kolos with Atium thing.
Hmm. If that's
Mm,
how it's done.
yeah.
Hey, it's hard for. I don't know. Presumably, all of the metals are involved in making the Inquisitors. So
Mhm.
maybe less metals are involved. I really don't know. But for the moment, my money is on the ancestral Kolos were humans. And I
Mhm.
don't know how they breed now, and I don't know if there are ways to make them currently, but I feel like, well, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm. Just thinking about the breeding and that note about, increasing and decreasing the number of swords having an influence on the population crudely.
Mhm.
We've got the significance of the sword because of the picture that we're thinking of. But actually also the significance of him taking a sword is that is a sword taken out of circulation.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
massive sword taken out of circulation. That's he has done something that Kolos might actually regard with interest.
Mm,
He's performed a cultural thing that Kolos seem to respect. So
right.
maybe he'll have some sort of influence on them. But yeah, he's taken it. So his influence, the effect of this is quite widespread. It's one sword out of circulation. Yeah, it's not going to change the whole population. I understand that. But the thing is, he has done something Kolos like, and that might galvanize them in some manner. Then, yeah, also just one less sword equals more chaos in the camp.
Right. But also, but like, what would Elend even do with a Kolos army? I feel like a Kolos army has to attack. So,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like he would just say, "Okay, go find a frontier and attack, guys." He'd care too much about
Mhm.
not wanting to cause destruction. I don't know what he would do with a. What would Elend do
You would
with a
try and
Kolos army?
civilize them,
Yeah, probably, probably.
preach to them.
Oh gosh. Well, great chapter.
So, yeah. That was a hell of a chapter. Mhm.
And next week is a blind blind. Very excited. Very
Mm.
scared.
I'm 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 glad that if okay, so if this okay, we've been recommended that the next is a blind blind, so that must be even more exciting than this one. Imagine if this was a blind blind. That's so I'm like I'm kind of worn out by this chapter already, and now you want me to do a blind blind?
Mm, yeah.
So what the hell is going to happen?
My prediction is that Jostes is not going to hold back anymore.
Great. So do you think that the Branderson Avalanche thing,
Sanderlanche?
Bravo, Sanderlanche? There you go. That's going to happen.
I think it could. It might start next
Mhm.
chapter. I'm scared.
I'm always scared.
Always scared.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that Don Kitte if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Join the Discord if you get a chance. I don't promote it too much, but I would. I post in there memes mostly. Thanks so much,
Mhm.
and have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I'm gonna mute for a second. Do not stop recording.
Do not stop recording. If the king tries to stop us, then we obey. Sorry, I'm playing around. Sorry about this.
Back.
Okay.